Welcome one all, my name is Tawess, and today we're going to put together another Praetor. But first off, I have to say thank you for 200 subscribers. This is, as I would say, a small milestone by most channels measurements, but for me it's a big thing that we together are actually doing this. So, as I mentioned, we're building a Praetor, and this time we're going to build a Space Wolf Praetor. I have started by pre-cutting a few parts. The loincloth, the gun, and found some chainaxe bits that was going to make it a bigger chainaxe, because Space Wolf needs bigger chainaxes, because that axe is boring. It's a boring axe. But yeah, for intents and purposes, we're going to start by trying to chop the axe up, because we don't need the blade. We do need the blade, but not for this. We can use that for something else. We are definitely using it for something else. But to avoid having my Praetor look like everyone else's Praetor, some modifications had to be done. Also, I'm terribly sorry for being stuffy, but I'm still having some slight allergies and I have no clue where they come from. They're like sneaky allergies. I usually don't have allergies this time of year. But this year I have. Who knows? Nobody knows why. Also, we are one morning already. We are slightly running out of video content by the end of this, because I filmed things, I thought, but when I went to retrieve the files, there was nothing there, so you know how it is. Things are what they are. So, anyway, we start by trimming off the axe blade, and then we fit on the chainaxe bits. Now I have these cold mounted before, and both these are from Orc. I think they are from the old Orc kit, the old Orc Boys kit, among others. And I mean, they're kind of cool. And I know there is this thing where, like, you have World Eaters and you have Space Wolf, and there's like, who are the premier chainaxe wielders? And I mean, World Eaters do have that reputation, and they are kind of winning out on amount, if nothing else. They are the most prominent chainaxe wielders, but their chainaxes don't really end up top tier. Sure, they have this magic ceramite metal magic thing that all chainaxes have, but you have to ask yourself, do the World Eaters chainaxes have dragon teeth? No, they don't. Space Wolves do. Thusly, I think Space Wolves are the ones that come out ahead in that quest. Anyway, this is a lot of filing and testing. And again, as we noted before, you do this carefully and in small batches, because, trust me, it is a lot easier to take away material than put it back. It is not impossible, but it's doable. But it's a lot easier if you just cut things carefully. Also, this is already dull blade, so don't worry. I would not be wielding it as carelessly if it was an actual sharp blade, because sharp blades make hole in skin in a lot of interesting ways. Also, I was hoping to have some plastic glue at this point, but no, my delivery, which holds my plastic glue, has been delayed until next week. So we're gonna have to do this with super glue. And yeah, it's not as good. I know some people like it. I prefer plastic glue for plastic models, because it gets a better seam, get my mold, and there's no such thing as impossible when it comes to plastic glue. You just melt enough stuff and you can squeeze it together. But yeah, carefully just measuring, cutting, and then gluing. There's all there is to it. If you end up wrong, just break the part again. That's a good part with super glue, is as long as it's not fully dry, you can just take it apart again. There's no real damage. Now I could stop here. This would still be a fairly chunky axe, but we are going to do Space Wolf chunky. So we are putting on another blade, because, well, it's needed. I still want to mimic the size of the axe from the original character, and this actually does that pretty well, to be honest. Now, one thing we have to take into account here is, of course, the fact that, and now some people have noticed it, and the rest of you are going to notice it now, and you're not able to unsee it. The blades go from two directions and meet in the middle, and that is actually intentional, because I like this idea, like the chain axe blades whirling inwards. You put the axe down, if you hit in the middle, it will just become a grinder, and we just like eat itself through things. It's kind of cool, actually. And I mean, it's a chainaxe is very stupid to begin with, so it works. Now, why Space Wolves for this one? Well, I made a Dark Angels Praetorian before, so that's kind of cool to have the rivalry going. It's also because I happen to have some Space Wolves bits laying around, and that it's a lot easier to modify things when you have the stuff laying around than not. So I was gonna use it. But yeah, so we took away the loincloth with the gun on, because I don't like how that sits, and I wish I could have shown you how I did it, but it requires a lot of careful, precise cutting, and I really can't do that without having it really close to my face, because my eyesight is go bad. So we had to do that off camera, but you generally just cut along the straps very gently and slowly, just along the straps. And it's also worth pointing out you should keep it separate, not glue it together to one torso before you do the cut, because it's a lot easier to do the cut before. It's still possible to do the cut when it's on the torso, the full torso, but it's a lot easier when they're two parts. Then we glue down legs, and we get some arms out, I think. I think this is the part we get the arms. Yeah. Because arms are important. Now, these kits go together fairly easy, and you have pretty much no chance of changing the pose, because, well, you could, but it would require a lot of green stuff work. No, we actually got the backpack this time. On the Dark Angel one, I pretty much took the backpack apart, but this thing works for Space Wolves. They're very shamanistic totem based. This works. We're gonna keep the skulls. I mean, it's 40k after all. What is that if not skulls? Here comes the arms, I think. Yeah. Also, the arms have these vambraces on the kit, which I decided to leave out because A, they look very busy and not very Space Wolfy. I was first considering like maybe make them leather, be like leather vambraces. That would be kind of cute. But in the end, I felt like, nah, we leave that to something else. They still have these thick bands on. I'm gonna paint leather if I paint it. And yeah, that is what it is. Now, so sticking the legs together is probably the hardest part on these, because the registry marks for legs are really shallow, and it's easy to kind of miss the mark on them. That's why it's smart to put one leg on the tactical rock first. Makes it a lot easier. But yeah, once you have them fitted in, there's not much more to do about that. I also carved away the circular decorations on the front because they didn't fit. We're going to put Space Wolf insignias over that instead. For some added flavor later on. I had to clean it up a bit because there were some bits hanging around from when I cut off the sprue. I mean, it happens. It's a thing that does happen. So, yeah. Beyond that, the arms glue in very easily because again they're pretty much just one post you can put them in, and that's kind of nice, especially for two-handed pose, because many two-handed poses are a nightmare to get to fit properly, especially if they're multi-part kits. But this kind of works. Also make sure to line up the cables, because that makes things look a bit neater. Yes, and one thing that I feel you should do with these, you shouldn't use them straight out of the box. They're good kits, but they do need a lot of personality added in. I mean, sure, you could, for all intents and purposes, make sure that they are properly fitted, but they still don't have much of personality, and everyone's kind of the same. So don't be afraid to take them apart and do things with them, because so for jump cut we had to spray it with accelerant to get things to stick, as you can see with the white goop there. And the good thing here is we kept the haft of the axe intact, meaning the placement of the hands remained the same. That way we knew it was going to fit into the arms. Because if you start cutting away the haft of the axe, there is a chance you move the hands, and you can end up in a position where like you have gaps or they're misaligned. So if you can, keep the haft alive and one piece. Beyond that, you can just cut this thing to bits as much as you want, because there is really no... Also, I forgot the camera had moved because the light fell down and hit the camera. But yeah, straighten out now. I'm testing out the van braces, and it just doesn't look good. There's no arm left once you do that. They're cool, but they're from a different project. Some later time. There's also a thing with these kits. Don't be afraid to leave bits off, because quite often you get bits and pieces they're supposed to go on, and you can just leave them off. Now trimming off the shoulder pad. The capes. I leave the capes off of both of these guys. Capes are cool, but my mind is like, you have a guy that is like 2.5 meters tall, and he has that big of a cape. The cape itself will probably weigh more than your average guardsman, because capes are heavy, and there's a lot of cloth in that cape. And as an active warrior with an axe, that does not feel like a smart thing to be dragging around. So I just skipped the cloaks, saving them. I might use them for something else, but for this, nah. So I use an old study shoulder pad and a shoulder pad from the skate box, from the Space Wolf kit. The head was one of these things I was like, I don't know what to do with, because it is a standard head. You just chop the top knot off. First I'm going to reapply it again as a ponytail of some sort, but there was no room back there for that. So something, I don't know what to do with that. But you know, it is what it is. Now, one thing I will say, if you're in Sweden and you want this thing, there is an auction up for this one and the Dark Angel one, so you can buy them. I'll put a link down in the description. But yeah, as I said, I'm just putting on some Space Wolf insignias over where the circlets used to be, because since we're not kind of the cloak anymore and they were kind of looking very specific, so I decided to cut them off and replace them. Again, don't be afraid to do these things. I mean, there's nothing that the green stuff can't solve. But yeah, that is pretty much the guy. Just gonna put his head on and then slap on a pair of wolf tail talismans on the back of the rack, on the backpack, and some other small bits and pieces. And that is gonna be it for him. Except in the left hand corner there, you have the Dark Angels Praetor. They're pretty good looking, I have to say that. Yeah, this is a good looking guy. Now, I don't have much more to say actually, because we are pretty much running out of video. I have a box of mechs coming, because I couldn't stop myself from ordering them. And that means we're going to go back to painting mechs soonish. And in between that, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. There are going to be things and stuff happening. But they should come next week, so we should be back to a regular programming by then. If you want to see more content like this, leave a comment. If you want to see more content in general, subscribe, like videos, you know, all that thing. So yeah, a Space Wolf Praetor with a chainaxe. He looks pretty mean actually. He's a nice guy. If you want him, he could be yours. Not shipping anywhere else in Sweden though, so just if it's Swedish. Sorry, international shipping is a nightmare. And until next time, stay safe, be kind, and do play fair. Bye.